What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. As you already saw in the title and the thumbnail, we're going to be talking about the water physics here for Spider-Man 2. I like the water physics, and I honestly don't usually care about water physics in video games. But I will take my time anyways to talk about it from a technical aspect, because it's easy to make fun of, people who may disagree or have different opinions and just say something like, oh no, here we go again, another puddle gate. Didn't the first Spider-Man game go through a water issue where people have said, oh, they toned down the water quality and blah, blah, blah. This is not the same. This particular concern is coming from people who actually do like the game. They just looked at the water physics and just said it just didn't seem satisfying in context of the fast-paced gameplay. They would have loved to see more quality in the water physics. In my opinion, I will tell you why I like it, and I'll tell you a technical reason why I think this is the quality of water that we're going to be getting right now. So, number one, the developers have already pushed the envelope. They've taken a lot of the car chase scenes that we got to see and made them jet ski, speedboat, water-based, gameplay loops in terms of what we're going to be seeing here. I don't know how much of this we're going to be doing. Maybe we're going to have these as activities in the end game. It'll be really nice. One thing about me is whenever developers push the envelope from, what they've done before in a previous title, I usually commend them, even though they don't do it perfectly. This is why I actually supported Gotham Knights. The developers went gung-ho, made a 4-character game and made it offline and did all this crazy crazy stuff, pun intended, that you probably would not do from a technical sense in your video game. Even though it harmed them at the end, it still has given them a lot of experience. So this team at Insomniac has basically gone ahead to try to push this envelope here, and we're going to look at a few things why. Number one, this game is being developed for the PlayStation 5. The PlayStation 5, as much as people may hail it to be something that is the next coming of, some savior, device, it is still limited. Every device has its limitations. And so in order for you to be able to do a chase scene like this with this amount of speed and still be able to try to run it at acceptable or even really impressive frame rates, someone, or some asset has got to give. Right here in this context, I think the water physics had to be simulated at this kind of quality or in this kind of representation in a sense. And that's the really interesting thing, because yes, if you notice, them being in the water here is not the most impressive in terms of, water physics capabilities that you can put together on, like, say, maybe other games. But to be honest, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Our brains can compute and say, hey, they're in the water. So this is the one place where, from a technical perspective, I say, yes, this is practical, that your water is not going to look like, say, the freaking water in Horizon Forbidden or Horizon Zero Dawn or Forbidden West or whatever it is you want to call it, right? That game is designing its own sequences very differently. It's doing things in a different way, and it's trying to represent its game, in a very interesting light. Plus, it's a game that has a lot of slow down mechanics. In fact, the way they've designed the core game, the mechanics don't require a lot of speed. Here in the Spider-Man game, you're looking at a fast-paced combat, fast-paced, action sequences. So yes, I think that this is a technical directive to go with that does create a balance for everything to work. So a lot of the concerns that, the fans here have, they're valid, but you have to understand the technical limitations as well that's going on here. So ideally, I think this is what developers, for the most part, have to deal with and have to face. You have a specific amount of hardware resources that you must use. So think about this. When you're developing a video game, it's like you got a bank account. Everything that you put into that video game is going to cost you money. Basically, the money that it's costing you is your hardware. The bank account is your hardware capabilities. In this case, the PlayStation 5. It has an 8-core CPU. It also has, in its own GPU right, something that is akin to a 6700 non-XT version. So one of my audience members, Terra Enigma, shout out to you, pointed out to me that the closest GPU that you can actually use to compare to the PS5 is a 6600 non-XT. It is a mid to low range graphics card in this new generation, and it's actually quite capable, but it still has limitations overall. In fact, if you look at some videos that have actually shown comparisons, it has to do some really, really, cool. I mean, developers, anyways, for the PS5 games have to use some really interesting things like dynamic resolution, use checkerboard rendering and so on and so forth to be able to get you 4K, to be able to get you all of these different performance, paradigms. And so I think the developers have done something really smart here. So think about that. The technical limitations that you face, thinking also about, you having to run a fast-paced gaming sequence, and then also the open world streaming that will be going on. So this is kind of a pre-scripted gameplay loop as well. This is not necessarily 100% freeform. Could we go here during the game and, eventually just, swing around? That'd be cool. And I think that's, probably a possibility. But also think about streaming an open world as well in this particular, context, and using a machine like that. I think you're probably in a place where the developers have been able to make the compromise to give you a sweet spot, or at least will do so, because some aspects of the gameplay look like it needed to be cleaned up. I think I saw some, gameplay sequences that seemed like they weren't necessarily running at 60 FPS, but that's something that they're going to be able to, in my opinion anyways, that they're going to take their time to fix, because now they only have one platform to get the job done. So quality in terms of some aspects are going to go. Now, if you notice, even in these chase scenes here that you're looking at, your character models all look pristine. They're all intact. So that is one aspect of the whole, sequence that they did not compromise on. If you look at other elements, their polygons and, their designs are very, very basic. Like, this boat here that explodes, the ship, the cranes, the bridge, they've used, this much less detailed polygons here, but they've kept your character models, they've kept your asset models that are in the sequence to be very high fidelity. So it's a win-win situation. You got to choose. You can't have it all. Unless your PlayStation 5 is like a 4090 build with a, 12, 16-core CPU where they can harness all that power, then they'll be able to give you foliage detail. If you even look at the leaves and the trees, their detail is also kind of minimal. But look at this drone here. Look at the lighting. Look at the visual effects just from this one small area where the camera is zoomed in. They're giving you the quality that you need. So I would not sweat the water physics, ladies and gentlemen. They might even go ahead and be able to change it and maybe do some really interesting alchemy to make it look much better. But you have to understand the overall context of everything. You got to look at the big picture, like, okay, what all is in this gameplay sequence and what machine is it running on and what do the developers want to achieve? And if their goal is to achieve a clean, smooth gameplay experience at the cost of the water not looking so great or looking Horizon great, then I think this is a win either way. So this is pretty much what I wanted to go ahead and, posit about this particular area and talk about, because I think that's one concern that people have raised. And I wanted to make sure that, we didn't go the Puddlegate route, but we actually talked about this in a, much more technical sense to kind of highlight where the, strengths of development is and the weakness basically being hardware limitation for the most part. So thanks so much for watching. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.